This conference will now be recorded.
You good, Am? You ready? Y'all good? Yes, sir. All right. I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order. As always, let's start with the pledge and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt the agenda. Anything to add to the agenda this afternoon? Anybody?
No, sir.
Please.
Mr. Chairman, I had spoken with Mr. Weekly earlier about incorporating a VACO report in with the other outlook report from the basin,
Yep.
if that's okay?
Yes, sir. Let's do that.
Thank you.
You want to do that under information and correspondence,
That
Jim?
would be fine,
Do it as 9?
yes.
Yes, sir. Anybody else have anything? What would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Public comment. Public comment. Public comment. Wait. And if you would, if you got public comment, please go to the podium. Tell us who you are. That's about it.
Hello, my name is Cindy Taylor. I live in Wolftown.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to speak to you about concerns I have about Mr. Charlie Sheeds, who serves on our school board, and why I think, in particular, that the 5 of you as county supervisors should be concerned about this. I had thought that in September, Mr. Sheeds couldn't go any lower. In September, he called one of our library board members worthless and obese, and these are public comments, and said that she should shut her, I'm remembering, filthy, nasty, demonic mouth. I thought, well, we can't go any lower than that, I don't think. Many of us have stood up to Charlie over the years, spoken at school board meetings, and written letters to the editor, and emailed him, and tried everything, but didn't help. And now this latest rant, which I hope most of you have seen on the very toxic Madison Bulletin, where he said that Muslims are evil. They want to kill all of us in America. They want to kill all Christians. Then he threw in for good measure that we have to give black people everything because they can't achieve anything on their own. I thought, well, we did go lower. I and many people in this community are very concerned about this rhetoric. It's harmful, it's hurtful, it's hateful. And in particular, it's dangerous. It's the kind of thing that radicalizes people to do violent things. And this is not what we want in this community. And he is an elected official representing our schools, of all things. And I know it would be easy to say, he's out of office at the end of the year, let it go. Or just don't amplify it, let it go. Or this is the school board's problem, this is not for the Board of Supervisors, they need to deal with it. No. It's time, finally, for every elected official in this county to stand up and say, I do not support this. This is not who we are. This does not represent our community. Mr. Jewett, you and all of the supervisors are constantly talking about economic development and the future of our county and the need to expand our tax base. We are not going to get families to move in here and businesses to locate here when someone can say, an elected official can say such toxic things, hateful, dangerous things, and we say nothing, you say nothing. It is time to stand up to this and put a stop to it. Or you won't put a stop to it, I know, but at least say you do not support it. And the last thing I would like to say is we have a lovely Muslim community here locally. We have a mosque in Culpeper, and I just donated to them in Charlie's name. They are kind, wonderful neighbors. And I would love to see, and would happily work on this, a major interfaith event happening in this county in response to this toxic nonsense, where we can celebrate our faith, we can celebrate our diversity, our differences, we can celebrate all being neighbors in this community. That's what I hope for, and I hope that all of you will be brave enough to stand up and say, I don't support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment?
My name is Pastor Frank Lewis, Antioch Baptist Church here in Madison, and I just want to piggyback on what Ms. Taylor just said. Of course, I took it quite offensive to hear that we as black people, we just get everything from you all, and we can't achieve anything for ourselves. But I think we need to look at some history, and maybe that's the reason why we're trying to stop history from being taught, so that we won't have to face the facts. But it's a fact, and I can't go into all that detail, that in this country, that every time blacks have ever tried to elevate themselves, it was the other side that took them down. You know, the Black Wall Street situation, Tulsa, and so forth. And when President Obama became president, after he had achieved and been a Harvard scholar and whatever, all of a sudden he was considered to be arrogant because he had educated himself and progressed. You know, and then when I look at my life personally as well, it was a known fact that myself and a few other African-American men would have never gotten the job that we had if it wasn't for affirmative action. They were just not going to give it to us. Affirmative action got us there. But we didn't ride affirmative action after all of that. I did pretty well, and I think I'm doing pretty good myself, but I'm concerned about my grandchildren. I'm concerned about the generations that's ahead of us, because I have more time behind me now than I got in front of me. So it's very disturbing to know that we can have elected officials in this county that thinks on this level. And through that and what I've had to achieve, and then my children, they went out and achieved for themselves. They didn't get it from somebody giving it to them. I don't know where this idea comes from all the time, that everything is given to us. But of course, back in that day, affirmative action was a good thing, without a shadow of a doubt. So I do hope and pray that our county as a community is better than all of this foolishness and rhetoric, and that our top county officials will, as Taylor said, will denounce this kind of stuff. That this is not what we stand for. We want a community where we all can work together and pull together and befriend one another and not tear down each other, that kind of thing. So that's where we are with that. And we just want, our county officials to just stand up and just be, great men and women to say that everybody have the opportunity and can have a fair choice of justice, with justice and liberty, as for all, as we said when you did your pledges to the flag. Liberty and justice for all, and not to tear down and to belittle one another. So I do trust that the incoming board and those that will remain on the board will certainly look at these issues and stand up for what's right and what's just for everybody. Because we all are taxpayers in this county, and we all want the best for our children and our grandchildren as they grow up, so they won't have to worry about getting out of the county and running because of what they think they're going to face in their county. And I hope that's also something else to say about why we need some industry or whatever we can get to try to hold some of our young people here in the county as well. So thank you all for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Other public comment? Yes, sir.
My name is Jeff Green, and I live in Wolftown. I only approached this board for the second time in 37 years. And it's for the exact same reason I approached it last time. That's when the county administrator made racial derogatory remarks about one of the Board of Supervisors members. I don't know if you remember it or not. So here I am again, suggesting that what Mr. Sheets has said publicly is not tolerable. It's abhorrent. My best friend, lifelong friend, is a Muslim, a female Muslim who contributes to the community, who votes, who pays taxes, and is shocked. Unlike me. Probably unlike you, if you know Charlie Sheets and you have followed his public comments about everything. So, in conclusion, what I want you all to do is to publicly censure him. Do the right thing and say Madison is better than this, and we don't approve of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Susanna Spencer. I live in Duet. And I would just underscore what he said. And part of my perspective is that I'm a military brat. I spent half my childhood in Muslim countries. People there are just like you and all of us, everywhere, care about the same things. There are extremists among them. There are extremists among us. And I certainly, when I read Charlie Sheets' comments, because I don't spend much time on social media, I was shocked. Here is a public official expressing himself that way. It's totally out of bounds for somebody to express themselves that way. So hateful and crass. So think from that standpoint alone, regardless of what he was saying, he should be censured. Nobody should be speaking that way in public. As a public official, you should represent a certain amount of decorum. So I hope you will censure him. Thank you.
Lee Purdom from Brightwood. A lot of y'all don't know me, probably maybe two of you. Y'all stood up here and pledged allegiance to the flag. Y'all stood up here and said liberty and justice for all. Charlie Sneeds, I don't even know him. I shook the man's hand one time. He has a right to freedom of speech. Every single one of you have a right to freedom of speech. And we should stand behind even people who you disagree with for that freedom. This cancel culture has to stop. We know his stance. He has the right to his opinion. I don't know what the problem with that is. I know where he stands. I know where you all stand who stood up here and spoke. But to say that that man should be canceled or censored, no, you took a pledge. Stand by it. Thank you.
My name is Patricia Fry. I live somewhere between Shelby and Wolftown. I'm a pediatrician, and so children are my business. And I had the privilege of working with the children who were evacuated from Afghanistan, who were injured, who were sick, and I worked with these families. And people have different religions. My religion may be different from yours. We all have different standards. We have different ways of living. We have different foods. We have different ideals. But to have someone on the school board vilify an entire community of people solely based on their religion, I think is reprehensible. What he has said is not about expressing his opinion about people. You can't go, freedom of speech stops when you start saying things that are dangerous. So you can't go into a movie theater and yell fire. All right, your freedom of speech stops there. So you may not like Muslims, you may not know any Muslims, but you cannot stand up as an official, and especially as a school board official who's responsible for helping to mold these children, and say blanketly that a whole community of people is evil and that they are dangerous. That in itself is dangerous and goes beyond freedom of speech. And I agree with those who asked for some sort of a response from the Board of Supervisors, because as a minority in this community, this incendiary and inflammatory language is making us more and more uncomfortable. So today it's Muslims, tomorrow it's blacks, it's, some other day it'll be Asians. This has got to stop. We are a community. We have to live together. We have to work together. And this is not about freedom of speech. This is about being neighborly and accepting people's differences of opinions. But when you take an oath to be an official in this community, there's a certain responsibility that goes with that. And thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Charles Landgraf. I live in Etlin, Madison County. And I agree with Cindy Taylor, Frank Wolf, Patricia Fry, and others who have spoken here about the complaint on Charlie Sheeds. And it's not about cancel culture. If anyone is guilty of cancel culture, it's Charlie Sheeds. I tried to approach Sheeds after a school board meeting one evening to ask him specifically about an item that had been on the agenda that he had been outspoken on. And before he would respond to me, he insisted on me telling him which church I attended. Now, perhaps this was because my Thai Buddhist wife was standing next to me, or Perhaps he just perceived that I didn't attend the same church as he did, but he refused to answer a polite, well-meaning question until I would tell him which church I attended. This during a public meeting, or immediately after a public meeting in his capacity as a school board member. Anyway, in addition to farming in Etlin, I also practice law in Washington, and it occurred to me after reading these very public posts that he's been making repeatedly, is that you, as a board of supervisors and the school board, should immediately consult your own counsel about your legal exposure if you don't respond to this. This is not a question of canceling Charlie Sheeds. This is a question of you doing your duty. And I highly urge you to consult counsel. This is an extremely offensive, extremely dangerous rhetoric and conduct that he's engaging in, and there is no doubt that he's a school board member doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? Any other public comment? Just one online? Yes, sir. All right, back to the board.
I got a
Go ahead,
couple things.
please.
First of all, I do agree that it's First Amendment right. I mean, now we know who we're dealing with. I don't agree with what the vitriol that he's put out there. And Reverend Lewis, you're exactly right. Our county is better than that. So I've been on this board for 6 years now, and in dealing with issues like property rights and road improvements and all that stuff, I have never seen this group here or the group that I was with before Dustin and Jim came on discriminate against anyone based on anything. And we've had folks in here that were having trouble speaking English. That didn't make any difference to any of us. We were looking at our ordinances and whatnot. So I'm very proud of the way this Board of Supervisors has always handled things. And to Mr. Green's point, if we're talking about the same issue with the county administrator, I'm pretty sure the county took care of that in a very expedient manner, as I recall. I would think I was living in Virginia Beach at the time, but I was still getting the Madison Eagle, and they took care of it expediently. So I would imagine we will be consulting with our council here to see what our responsibilities are. But
Anybody else?
I think,
I apologize.
no, I think that's it.
Anybody else? I hate to echo, it is in poor taste, to post that kind of stuff, but it is free speech, and it is free speech. We talk about the pledge, it's probably the happiest time that I have being in this room. It's something that is important to every person that sits in here. It bothers me that we are giving publicity in this venue where we have such a good community, to publicize something on a Facebook page. This looks to me like responding to a bully. We are all better than this. Responding to it it wouldn't make me feel better. I read through them last night. It's pretty rough. Is it in poor taste? Absolutely. In the same regard, it is free speech and it's protected. Get off Madison Bulletin. We see the trash that goes across it, and it's not one-sided, it's everybody. And that's sad for a community. I understand all communities have these pages. It's just kind of a bitchers and complainers page. I like seeing stuff about Madison County and all the good stuff that's going on in Madison County. That's the stuff that we're not publicizing. Normally, on the bulletin is something pretty derogatory about me. I'm just glad they're talking about Madison. That's where it is. This is free speech. Please go to the school board. I was there on Monday night. They had 0 public comment. Express yourself, but it is free speech.
Yeah, this one more thing.
Please.
This situation here upsets me about, not quite as much as the flag that flew in front of the gun store for 6 months, longer. With children going by it twice a day in school buses. I was hopping mad about that, and I talked to the town, we talked to the county, there was nothing we could do about it. And I guess the appropriate thing that nobody in the county did take it upon themselves to go tear that flag down, because they honored the right to free speech, although it was just so inappropriate. And you know, it finally went away, but goodness gracious, that's the way it is.
Anybody else? Thank you all. We do have constitutional officers, county departments, committees, and organizations. We'll do public comment again at the end if you'll like, or we are going to do it, but just something there. Let's start. Mooney, please.
Good afternoon, Board. Just a couple update on some projects. The memorial building, the floor is completed. We got that done in a timely fashion. We also redone the flagpole, put new string up, painted. The monuments out front have been sandblasted and cleaned. We do have a problem going on in the Commissioner of Revenues, not the Commissioner of Revenue, I'm sorry, Commonwealth Attorney's Office. The heat went out in there. So we had Riddleberger come in today to check the blower. The blower is bad in it. They're supposed to send me a quote to fix that, and we'll get that done pretty fast. The animal shelter is probably around 80% painted, and is almost complete. They're doing a good job in there, and we just moving along. We got some Christmas stuff going up soon here, so we can have something to celebrate in this county.
Looks good, Mooney.
Any questions from you
Anybody
guys?
have questions? Thank you, Mooney.
All right, no problem.
All right. Annette, I think you're next. Alan, you have a microphone. Pass it on around so we can move this thing on. I know.
That's okay. So as Mooney said, you guys agreed to have the kennel section of the shelter painted. It looks great. It has brightened it up. I can't wait for you guys to come out and see it when it is done. And then the only other thing I have is my October numbers. We took in 20 strays, 9 owner surrenders. We had 1 transferred in. We had 10 reclaims, 13 adoptions, 7 transferred to rescue. At the moment, I have 1 dog, and that's just due to the kennels being painted. We kept our numbers low. And we have 5 cats, 4 of which those are adopted. They're just waiting to go home Friday and Saturday. That's all I've got.
May I have questions for Annette? Annette, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Sheriff?
No, it's not sheriff. Good Lord. I bet Ashley, thank you. I apologize. I'm sorry, Ashley. I do apologize profusely.
No problem.
How's dispatch?
Dispatch is going well. For the month of October, we had 98 home phone calls received through 911, 333 wireless calls received on 911, 2,025 administrative calls taken, and 1,123 administrative calls made. And total calls is 3,579. Total calls for service for the month of October, 1,238. Year-to-date, it's 11,163. Year-to-date percentage compared to last year is at 98. Same time frame as last year, 97%. As far as staffing, we still have 2 positions open, a training coordinator supervisor position and a communications officer position we're advertising for. We've had many applicants, still searching for the right person. We have an interview set up next week. Our trainee is completed her training. She has now been released to hold her own position. As far as outreach, during October, we had a lot of our dispatchers right along with EMS. They absolutely loved it. They really enjoyed it. So a big thank you to Noah and Gavin for setting that up and allowing us to participate. Also, we had a tent set up for Trick or Trunk.
It was good this year.
It was so good.
Kids were polite. It was very endearing.
Yes. We had a lot of kids. We had our tent set up. We had Jennifer and I, as well as Dispatcher Gill. She was there with her service dog, and she was a big hit with the kids. I did have a picture of the dog.
Yeah, how many kids got licked all up and down?
Oh, wait till you see your costume.
Yeah, oh yeah, it looks good.
But yes, the kids loved her. They, she did great. They pet her and just hugged on her, and it was a good time. So definitely looking forward to doing that again next year. Definitely looking forward to doing it again next year, and brainstorming some ideas for the upcoming months we can do for the community.
Oh, that's great. The only one that catches me, and I know we have the ability now, is have we received any text messages? I mean, I see the calls that are the drop your iPhone and it triggers a response going to dispatch. Have we received any text?
Text to 911?
Yes, ma'am.
We do get text to 911 most of the time. They're from Shenandoah National Park.
All right.
So we transfer that to the park. And then we also get text calls from alarm companies such as ADT reporting alarm calls.
Yeah. Very good. Anybody else have questions for Ashley? Ashley, I apologize again. I'll do better next month.
That's okay.
Sheriff, how many kids trick or trunk?
That's a good question. I'll get to that. Hold on a second. We had a good event, Trick or Trunk this year. We had 45 vendors come in. We had a record crowd of 1,585 children and adults that we actually counted. So that was the biggest one we've ever had, it's right there.
Right.
Big event. I received several emails from Ms. Turney. She does a great job. One email a couple weeks ago, I'm not allowed to talk at this meeting. I missed a second email and said I could talk, so I'll be short. Good. You have a copy of our report. Ashley gave you most of our numbers. I know the budget season's coming up. When we start stalking, I really would like to have a chat with you, our reference to the CSB. As usual, we're getting whatever on. This past weekend, we had a call, couldn't get no assistance from them. We had a total of 68 man-hours with 58 hours of overtime last weekend. We had to actually go up and just sit. We could get no assistance from CSB trying to find a bed. So any questions from the board?
Anybody? Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Greg.
All right, good evening. Calls for service is about the same from last month. Calls handled in person was 51, handled by phone was 87, and after-hour emergency calls were 13. Spoke with V at the Health Department following Mr. Jewett's concerns at the last meeting on the on-call after-hour emergency. If you ever suspect an animal having rabies, I did speak to her about that and advised her that that's very important, that we need to have something on the county website. So that's listed under the frequently asked questions under Animal Controls Department now. So calls are routed to Daniel, and then V, and if those two don't answer, then Dr. Carr. But we always encourage someone to call Call us as well if you can't get in touch with them for some reason.
Very good.
Nothing about goats at this time.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Any, do we have anybody on the clock on the livestock ordinance?
I don't believe so. Everyone that I speak to about it, they're all in favor of it. They don't see any issues with it whatsoever.
Do you have anybody that is starting the strike process?
A couple.
That's a bummer. Tell your neighbors, keep your cattle in and livestock.
Yeah.
Anybody have questions for Greg? Greg, thank you. Gavin?
Good evening. This will be a very long report, probably half hour or so,
I
so
hope
buckle
not.
up. Actually, it's a very short one. LEPC was canceled last week due to multiple illnesses, me being one of them. But I will be rescheduling that in public safety here, looking at December, but it may be first of the year before we get all that in. And then still working on the annual update for the EOP. That should be done first or second week in December. And that's all I have.
Good. Any questions for Gavin? Gavin, thank you.
Thank you.
Alan, how's IT?
Good afternoon, everyone. So we have been mostly project-based for the last month or so. I won't steal a lot of Jamie's thunder, but IT and Stacy from the building department, we went through Tyler and manually changed 9,500 plus parcels ourselves. So we didn't have to wait on Tyler, which probably would have pushed resident access's release to late January or February. So not only did we save money, but we saved a lot of time doing it ourselves. Kudos to Federico and Stacy for helping with that. We have an expected ship date of the processors for our server migration project. It is 11/18. As soon as those get here, we're going to be rushing them over to dispatch and hopefully get them in same day. So for the projects, we have a plan for the POTS line replacements for fax lines. We've agreed upon it. We're just waiting for final numbers, paying for it, and once they get here, we'll put these analog converters in. Should be pretty much plug and play. The Verizon to T-Mobile switchover is complete. All county phones and cradle points have been successfully migrated to the new carrier. And resident access, as I said, is essentially live at this point. We have final testing to be done with the payment processor, which we will be doing tomorrow.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody have questions for Alan? All right. Tilly, how is HR?
HR is going well. Tyler Adams with New York Life started his enrollment on October the 27th, and we're going to end next week. So far we had about 22 policies, and all we needed was 10 for the guaranteed issue. So we're doing good so far. Doing evaluations for department heads and employees for this month. I'm gonna need everyone's evaluations back by the end of the month. And then we have about 6 positions on the website. And that's all.
Good. Do we have any questions for Tilly?
We're down 6 positions?
Yeah.
Are we?
I'm writing that down. I'm sharing it.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Gardner, please.
I can't not say anything. They're correct. I know what you guys are saying as well, but those comments and things do affect economic development and 100% affect visitation as well. And regarding the flag, we got calls from visitors from North Carolina and somebody else from Georgia at that time saying this affects how people wanting to come to your county. I'm like, I completely understand. And if I didn't have this job and I were a little taller, I would have taken it down myself, Cardi. So anyway, had to be said. We had our shadows today from the high school. Mine was Tabitha. And I was kind of neat. She wants to be in vet, but she doesn't do that. It's construction. And I was like, well, very cool. Female, works on a farm. So by the time the hour was over, it came out that she drove one of the tractors through that drive your tractor to school day. So when I pulled up our reel from that day, I hadn't looked at it in a long time, 94,000 views. Biggest reel we've ever had. The next closest was our Welcome to Fall with 40,000. So nice to know my free little thing, and I'm paying money for reels that aren't getting like maybe 10,000. So, but that was very cool to see. So she was excited to see that. I will be away, like really away next week. So I will have things forwarded properly. I attended the last classroom session for the Virginia Tourism Leadership Institute in Richmond, where we heard from Tommy Herbert from the VRLTA and his 10 tips for talking with legislators. We also heard from Delegate Terry Austin, who is the co-chair for the VA 250, and that went really well, and we had a great tour, thank you, of the Capitol with the supervisor of tours, and that's highly recommended because I've never had that before. Last month, we also had the Realtor Roundtable, and Brian Daniel came back to go over the new system that took over Vaminet. On the 26th, took our Destination Development Manager from Virginia Tourism on a tour of Madison, so she'd never been, so she's very excited about that. We had a ribbon cutting on October 1st for Summit Towing and Recovery at Ace Collision Center. They acquired R.S. Richards Transports and Towing, and a ribbon cutting at MadTac, which came back to Madison. That was on November 1st. Let's see, Main Street Thrift opened up, which is next to Fruits LLC. And speaking of Madison Bolton, my husband's name was on that last week. So that was fun, straightened that out. We hugged it out. Misunderstanding on that one. So yeah, I normally don't read it, but I caught that one. So there you go. The Central Virginia Food and Beverage Business Growth Network call was on the 8th via Venture Central in Charlottesville. We also filmed as part of our grant for the Toast Virginia on October 22nd. We almost didn't do Graves because of time, but I'm really glad now that we did, because now that's going to look like a tribute, and I'm happy about that. We went to Graves, Ducard, Revelation, and Early Mountain, and we returned there on the 6th of this month. We did more filming at Early Mountain while they're open. We have content creators coming back into town on December 5th. They're going to spend the Christmas parade weekend and doing a lot of shopping in town and eating in town as well. And what was on my report last month, but we had Scott from Ducard here, so I didn't go over it, was in new news, we have a farm tour coming up. We don't know if we're going to do it next year or the year after, but this is sparked by Chuck Jackson, because it's always suggested, but I always say, great, I'll promote it, but I need somebody else to facilitate. Chuck's willing to do that. And because of that willingness, he also got voted president for the Chamber of Commerce for next week. So I'll be the VP next year. Not next week, next year. So congratulations, Chuck. Attended the Central Virginia Partnership for Economic Development Board meeting, and afterwards we met with the UVA Employer Relations and regarding employment and their interns. We had, as also part of the grant, the Piedmont Craft Beverage Seminar in Orange County. And then we had a meetup again at Early Mountain with our Destination Development Manager and her boss from the Director from Tourism. So I'm telling you this because as a group, it's more or less our economic development region versus our planning district. We're grouped in with Central Virginia, which includes Richmond. We never get any publicity. It's always Richmond, Richmond. So we are kind of, I don't know what the right word is, we're trying to, we may have a resolution done to be called the Virginia Piedmont and just have our area, so we get some extra publicity that way. We can do advertising that way and just get our faces forward, basically. And, oh, also, DIY out on 29, that has been purchased by House of Grace, and they came in to introduce themselves. Sounds like a great company now that's taken over that place with all the granite and the countertops and all that. So looking forward to working with them. And so Mooney mentioned our little Christmas parade is December 5th. Mountain View Chapel is graciously doing cookies and cocoa at 5:45 with the parade at 6. And there's lots. You will not get hungry during Thanksgiving. Everybody's doing a community dinner or something going on. So check the website, madisonva.com.
All right. Other questions for Tracy?
One quick one, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Tracy, what's going to be our plan for VA 250 next year?
Our biggest thing is the obvious one. We have our fireworks that day. So any other events, I'm happy to work with anybody on.
Okay. Probably need to take this up in economic development.
Like I said, I told you
Right.
before, like the theme for the parade and that type of thing.
Right.
But yeah, I've asked, like I said, the Historical Society prior, and they didn't have any ideas for that. So if anyone does, I'm happy to help.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulate Chuck on his big position. All right. All right. Yeah, that's great. All right, Jamie Wilkes, how's building and zoning?
Oh, it's going great, going great. Our regular reports are in there, the permits issued, DEQ, inspections.
You love Tyler now?
We'll see.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll get to that.
Good.
As they say. Just a quick breakdown. We issued 124 new permits last month. 246 inspections, and 9 new dwellings last month. There was a little uptick there. And speaking of Tyler, you know, it's been difficult with them, but it would have been forever to get what had to be done, and you need to really give Alan an attaboy. He took it upon himself to do this, and it was a massive amount of work. I mean, to correct these parcels that we input them the way they told us to input them, but it doesn't work. But he has corrected it, and it all appears functional. We're doing a live test tomorrow, so this is going to be a big plus for everybody, us, the treasurer, and the citizens. You can actually pay online. That'll be nice. Staff updates. Carl Brackman recently passed his commercial mechanical inspector exam. Alan will be taking his last zoning certification next month, and then Stacy has completed all her classes and should be scheduling her certification exam shortly. We're constantly training and enhancing our skills in that department. And then the last thing, this one's bothersome to me, you know. With Washington and Congress and what they're doing, they have failed to reauthorize the National Flood Insurance Program. So luckily, we don't have too many policies in the county. We have 35 policies for over $10 million. Those policies cannot be renewed at this time. And if you build a home in the floodplain right now, you cannot get flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program. You can go out in the open market and hopefully a private vendor will pick you up. If you're high risk, you can forget it. That's how it works in the real world. That's the advantage of being an NFIP. They have to insure us if they're willing to fund it. But currently, as of today, it's still not funded. And where I was at before is a major problem because we had so many flood policies. Luckily, we don't have too many, but we're in that boat right now. We're waiting for Congress to actually do something. That's pretty much it, a quick rundown, unless you have any questions.
Anybody have anything for Jamie? Please, go ahead.
So the pay online, that means that people can pay for permits online?
Oh, yeah.
Can they apply online?
Not through that system, like,
Okay.
some things, like your business, you
Sure.
know, electricians, things like, they can send applications in electronically via email all day. Just this pay piece was a long time coming, but we're gonna find
No.
out tomorrow, and I think it's gonna work, but
Okay.
we'll see. If not, I'll
Good
be
job.
talking to Alan.
Good job, Alan. Good job, Jamie. Thank you.
No, it was Alan, he
Huge.
did it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just, so Jamie, the reauthorization of the National Flood Insurance Program, is that a function of the government shutdown or not?
Actually, I think it was prior to the shutdown.
Oh, okay.
When did the shutdown take effect? Sometime in October, right?
October 1st.
Okay, well, they didn't reauthorize it September 30th. It might be the same time frame, but this has happened in the past. And
Reopening of the government.
it's an
will
important deal.
Solve that, you think?
I think they'll address it pretty promptly.
All right.
I hope they do.
They're supposed to do the continuing resolution tonight if everybody gets back in DC. That's a big question, Ron.
All right, anybody else for Jamie Wilkes? Jamie Wilkes, thank you. Alan, Mr. Nichols, you were gonna wait, you have things to piggyback on Jamie.
I can piggyback on Jamie just a little
There you
bit.
go.
In the zoning department, we've got one major determination request going through. Currently have 10 open subdivision applications, 10 open notice of violations, 3 of which are going to court. We've got 6 open site plans, ongoing work with the Planning Commission. Currently have 3 variance applications going through to the Board of Zoning Appeals. The rest of it can wait for my time in the schedule.
Thank you. Anybody have questions for Mr. Nichols? Thank you. All right, I think we've hit everybody. Consent agenda, we've got minutes from 10/28/2025 and 11/05/2025. Anybody have comments, thoughts, motion? What would you all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. No special appearances. We do have 2 public hearings, FOIA policy and then the FY 26 administrative fees. Probably need to do these 2 separate, Hannon?
Yes.
Yeah. Ms. Clerk, please.
Alrighty, so as we discussed at the last meeting, let me pull it up here, sorry. VACO was contacted by the FOIA Council to notify them and the counties that they are connected with that the FOIA Council phone number was changed. In that reminder, they also reminded folks that the statutory requirements for FOIA was changed in 2023. And in those requirements, they also updated their template for the rights and responsibility form, which is what we use for our FOIA policy. To be in compliance and to make sure we're having updated forms on our website, we wanted to make sure we redlined and did some suggested changes to our FOIA policy. In hand to making those suggestions, we also would like to have suggestions for the fiscal year 26 administrative fees, which the FOIA fees weren't listed on that previously. I would like to say that all of our suggestions are things we are currently doing. We would just like our policy to reflect those changes. We have two resolutions. The one is for, the first one, the resolution 2025-22 is for the changes to the FOIA policy. Normally when we make changes to the FOIA policy, it's at your organization meeting, which is done by resolution. Resolution 2025-23 is for the amendments to the fiscal year 26 administrative fees, which is normally done during budget season. Here for any questions, if you'd like to go through the red lines, if you'd like to see the specifics on the fee schedule, I can go over that as well.
Anybody want to go through the specifics on this, or has everybody reviewed these, ready for an open, public hearing?
Public
Good?
hearing.
All right. Anything else, Ms. Turner? All right, I'd like to open the public hearing on the FOIA policy changes. Are there any public comments on the FOIA policy changing? Anybody? Doesn't look like anybody's online. Tilly, you see anybody online? Just Jonathan? All right. Any public comment? Back to the board. We do have resolution 2025-22. What's the pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve resolution 2025-22.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, the administrative fee amendment. I'm opening the public hearing for that. Any public comment? Any public comment? And Tilly just did your job, Ellen. Yeah, she did a good job too. All right, any public comment?
Mr. Chairman, just so it's clear,
Please.
this doesn't make any changes to the existing administrative fees. This is just adding the FOIA segment.
Thank you. Carter, do you have anything you would like to point out?
No, I just thought, the public would
All right, last call, public comment.
see that.
I agree. Back to the board. What's your pleasure? 2025-23.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt resolution number 2025-23 as presented.
Second. Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Mr. Gordon, tell us about the Hoover Ridge project update.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, Board. It's been moving along pretty well out there. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to go out and see it. We did the ground units as part of Phase 1A, and Parks and Rec realized they had a tremendous amount of funded donations. So we went into Phase 1A change order where we added some asphalt and some sidewalks out there. That was completed last week. The last appropriation that you guys did was also donated funds for the actual playground section. That contract has also been signed. We've also found some things we need to get done before that happens. We're working through those things now, but the progress is real out there. If anybody's not going out there, I urge you to go out there and do it, and I'll be happy to meet you out there if you'd like. But there's a lot of activity going out there. Mooney I don't think he said anything about the clover leaf, but they were also paved last week. That's not part of the Hoover Ridge project, but if you go out to the clover leaf where the baseball fields are, they put ADA walkways in between all four of those fields and connected to the concession stand.
That was a concession by Wes Smith when he was building official, and he said as long as we got them done in short proximity, turns out Madison was about 7 years. But we finally got it done. It certainly would make him happy to see all that taken care of. And it looks
It
great.
does. It looks really, really
looks
good.
nice.
Yeah. So,
Anything else?
not this time. We're just trying to beat the weather, get some of that hard surface in there. Once it starts getting cold, that thing becomes really difficult to manage.
So what was going on next to the Carpenter Pavilion today? I was out there today.
I didn't make it out there today. I'm not sure. The Carpenter Pavilion is where we're storing all of our equipment right now.
Right behind it, they were digging.
Oh, they're extending the force main. They brought it up to the road several weeks back to get
it down to the concession
Right, they've got to
stand.
come way down to where that grinder pump is gonna ultimately land.
All right.
Okay, please, Jim.
Mr. Gordon, where is the update on the storage barn project?
We actually got some good news on that today. We found a cooperative procurement mechanism for a company that we've worked with before. Until we were trying to get that thing finalized. That is gonna speed that up tremendously. We ran into a lot of snags putting that thing on RFP because we were doing a design build, and that leaves a lot of open area and a lot of confusion depending on what we're looking for. We feel like we can close that gap with what we're seeing now. Yes, sir.
I was talking to Jonathan and Brian about this earlier. It's unfortunate that it's not up. It's unfortunate we're missing out on the revenue for Parks and Rec from the Carpenter Pavilion. This is a building with concrete and steel building, like you know, Jim. I mean, it's going to last for a long period of time. Taking 6 months, it's inconvenient certainly, but we're going to get a product that'll last for hopefully as long as the last one did. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right, got one.
Well, now, it's just, so where are we on price on that now that we made?
We really haven't gotten there.
Yeah, okay.
We're trying to do something functional for as cheap as we can do it.
Yeah.
That's what's hit at the roadblock, right? I mean, you can build anything if you got enough money.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep this thing as low cost as we can. For all intents and purposes, it is a garage to hold equipment.
Right.
That we may be able to grow into something else later on down the road.
All right, thank you.
Well, we're still shooting towards that number of 250 to 300. It looks like the 300 will be more realistic, but that is where the play is on this. But it is something that will last and will keep our equipment going longer. Anything else on Hoover Ridge projects? All right, Mr. Nichols, back to you. Traffic impact analysis amendment.
Hope you don't mind, I'm gonna stand up so that way I can get spread out here. After the last regular board meeting, the county administrator contacted me to take a look at our ordinances as the resident engineer of VDOT had stated that traffic impact analysis are typically required for projects with 5,000 or more daily trips. So I did a little digging into our ordinances, and our ordinances that we have now do give us some flexibility on when we require the traffic impact analysis, which is good. We want that. But it does have some language in it from state code sections that have been repealed. So a little bit of maintenance is required in our site plan ordinance. I had distributed, there's a piece of paper in front of you up there for a proposed ordinance amendment. This is something really rough, but a change that might be required to where we can tie into VDOT's 5,000 daily trip requirement and also keep some of the flexibility while citing the standards like the Institute of Transportation Engineers. As that manual gets updated from time to time, we'll just stay up to date with the most recent manual without having to cite specifics on that. So what we'd like to ask the board to do is recommend to the Planning Commission to address the appropriate changes to get us up to date on this particular ordinance.
Everybody reading, what do y'all think? Do we want to instruct the Planning Commission to look into this and get us up to date? Probably should do it with official action.
Let me ask, so Alan, so that one administrative code ended in 155-50 was repealed. What replaced it? Do you know what replaced it?
All right, so if memory serves, it's the it's 30-155. I want to say it's -3010. I've got a note on my desk at the office, but it was replaced with something. We can do a direct crossover, but we have an advantage if we're tying this to a standard that gets updated independently.
Yeah, would you send me that,
I'd be happy to.
what changed? Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? What would we like to do with this? I do think this is something, keeps up to date. Planning Commission does a real diligent job, and comes back pretty quickly.
Essentially just maintenance.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So moved.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's what we've been looking for. Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Mr. Nichols. All right, Ms. Turner, back to you. Openings, committees, boards.
I don't think I've ever spoke so much at a meeting.
That's I like it.
So Mr. Snyder, who's currently on the Planning Commission, was elected to serve on the Board of Supervisors starting in January. As a result of the election, Mr. Snyder's seat on the Planning Commission will soon be vacant. In addition to that vacancy for the Planning Commission, you have Mr. Graves, who will be coming up at the end of January. We were just seeking board's direction on what you would like to do, if you would like to be proactive and start advertising, or if you have other thoughts. We just wanted to put that out there so it was on your radar beforehand.
What'd y'all like to do?
We have 2 spots.
Yep, that's right. Let's do that.
Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you. All right, draft 2026 RRC legislative program. Brian?
Yes, sir. This, just bringing this information to you from the RRC, which comes to us out of the, it's the Rappahannock Regional Commission, for those of you not familiar, which I'm sure everybody is. They put together this 2026 regional legislative program. It's a draft form at this point, but they're seeking consideration, discussion, or endorsement by all member jurisdictions. Sad things there like the House Bill 974, which I know everybody's familiar with on that. They're talking about moving the population from 5,000 to 20,000 so that we fall in that realm where we can still have the Planning Commission take a look at these things. Not withholding that right now their review period is so short that it would make it very difficult for us to get into that window. So it's things like this that are in there. I'm happy to go into anything, any detail for anybody that would be interested in that.
And you want us to adopt this?
You're looking for comments at this point. We're looking for just provide comments to staff so we can work with RRC to finalize the draft.
I hate to call it kind of an audible, but Jim, you want to talk about some of the VACO stuff as well, and then we can see what overlaps and whether or not.
Yeah, it certainly will. They make a lot of reference to that in the document as well.
I did give you folks a brief overview report. I'll send Kim an electronic copy so she can post it. I also gave her hard copy to copy for you guys the Virginia Budget Outlook from VACO, and I will have to scan that because I do not have access to an electronic copy. And then I also picked up some additional VACO Preliminary Legislative Program Report. It's this one, and I think we got a couple extra ones, Kim. We can make some copies if the public wants to see this. This is actually on VACO's website. I was at the VACO conference over the weekend at the Homestead, which I'm not going to make any comments about the Homestead, other than, quite frankly, this is personal observation. I found it disturbing that counties are spending that kind of money when you have taxpayers that can't pay their bills, their property tax bills. And I mean, it really bothered me. I couldn't sleep the first night. There were counties, folks there at receptions bragging about how much money their counties have and they were going to spend it. And all I could think about was Grandma here in Madison County and the couple trying to pay their doggone property taxes. And it was very difficult for me to, I don't know, just really bugged me. I think that's what's wrong with our government at all levels. They forget about the people they represent. All right, local control issues. They are all for local control, including land use. Interestingly enough, there's language in this report After being told in Woodstock that impact fees were out of the question to pursue, there is a line in the land use paragraph that says that possibility we should pursue impact fees. So I thought that was a good move. Mr. Wright had given us the draft we looked at last week on our proposals to change that. And I'm gonna send that on to Senator Reeves and Delegate Hamilton when I get her email contact information. So there is some possibility that at least we'll get a hearing on that. But as I said, a month ago, they were telling me it was out of the question, so it's back on the table. And that would definitely be a big boost for localities, especially since the results of Senate Bill 974. Some other things, local control on home-based business regulation, event spaces, local authority to regulate renewable energy production and storages. Another thing was they oppose mandatory collective bargaining for public employees, but what I gathered from the folks there, both officially and unofficially, is we're gonna get mandatory collective bargaining for public employees next year. And along with the consequences, the budget consequences of that. Some things on education. VACO supports the state funding their share of the full funding of education, adding dedicated state funding for school construction, local authority retaining that to establish charter schools. That's really not applicable to Madison, but I mentioned it. And then the big one, and I know we've heard this from our school board and also from the superintendent, they are strongly supporting amending the standards of quality funding formula adjustment for school systems of less than 2,000 students. And I think that's got a fairly good shot. Under law enforcement, they support retaining qualified and sovereign immunity for local government, which includes law enforcement officers. Now getting to the bad part, the state budget outlook. We have, right now, Virginia has a $2 billion carryover into this next fiscal year. According to the projections, there only needs to be a 0.4% increase in general fund revenue to meet the 2026 budget needs. Forecast growth, what this analyst was telling us, and this guy's worked in and out of the General Assembly for 40 years. He actually was a budget director for Hunter Andrews, if anybody remembers him, the old Senate Majority Leader from many years ago. He was saying that based upon what he thinks is going to happen, we're probably looking at 2.5% forecast growth in general fund revenue, even though a lot of other predictions are for less than that. We got some extra money. The state got extra money in 2024, 2026, about $572 million from unexpected non-withholding income. What is non-withholding income? Those are taxes related to capital gains and other types of non-withholding, non-wage income. That is growing significantly and becoming a more and more important part of what we're doing, and a lot of that is because of the data centers and some of the other stuff in the stock market. So that money showed up. That was a good thing. Here are the big problems coming along the way. The state, in the next biennial budget, 26 through 28, another $223 million added to that because of the elimination on the K through 12 support cap, which of course helps us. Medicaid is the big one. Within the next 2 years, they're projecting that we will need to spend almost $3 billion more to support Medicaid, which is already 25% of our budget. Now, 2/3 of that comes from the federal government, 1/3 of that comes from the state government. There is a new Medicaid Community Engagement Program requirement, also known as the work requirement. It's not just work, it's either you're working or you're going to school, you're involved with some kind of community organization that would qualify folks to continue to get Medicaid. That's going to have to be administered and qualified primarily at the local level, along with the increased responsibility of state and localities to administer the SNAP program. So that's going to hit our DSS program with local revenue. I think we're going to see that show up in the next 2 years. Another $180 million increase for the Child Services Act. $600 million for teachers and state employees raises of 3% over the next 2 years, but as we already know, as far as teachers go, those funds only apply to 16% of the 22,000 teachers in Virginia, which means that the localities are going to have to match that. And for us, that's about $300,000 to $400,000 a year right now. The other big issue is going to be compliance with changes in the federal tax code. They're not really sure what's going to happen with that as far as changing to match like the Section 179 expensing, the changes to depreciation, the changes to the no tax on tips and all that sort of things. Currently, Virginia doesn't do that and is not collecting revenue or not losing revenue from that, but that's the compliance to match the changes in the federal tax code could cost the state significant revenue, so that's going to be another issue. Potential new state sales taxes, and this is something that, in being in tech, I'm ashamed I didn't even know this. They're looking at potential new state sales taxes for what is called new economy purchases. These are things like digital services, software as a service, computer-related services, web design and hosting, data storage, which is huge because of the data centers that we have, streaming services. Virginia is the only jurisdiction in the Mid-Atlantic that doesn't tax any of these services. And I look for the General Assembly to probably start doing that. There's a potential to increase revenue by $1 billion. The other thing that's being talked about is 2 new top income tax brackets that would add another $500 million. One would be 6% for incomes $100,000 to $1 million, and 6.75% bracket for incomes above $1 million. Now, I've got this handout, and again, I'll replicate that. The Virginia Budget Outlook talks ad nauseum in detail about where we are as far as projected revenue and spending over the next biennium. And I was just doing some rough calculations during the VACO conference, and these are preliminary rough calculations. But with some of the things that are probably going to happen at the state level, we're not going to get the revenue from them that we've been getting, or at the very least, we're not going to get any more. The other issue, I think, with the collective bargaining is going to significantly add to our local spending. Thinking back about the projections we had for our tax rate, I just roughly calculated that if the worst-case scenarios come to pass in these projections, we could easily be looking at property tax rates in this county in the low 60s. And, and significant staff reductions both in the county and school system. If we don't get our act together on economic development, we need to aggressively pursue economic development. We have to do it intelligently, but this, I think, adds another sense to urgency to what we have to do to prevent us from taxing ourselves out of our homes. The VACO conference was great in that I met a lot of folks from other counties and jurisdictions. We got to talk. They had ideas, wonderful ideas. We need to keep an eye on Louisa County with their data center money. I was really impressed with what they're looking at long term to use that money for, and one of the big priorities, at least according to this one supervisor, who's one of their senior supervisors, is to preserve the farmland and open spaces of that county. He's come up with some really novel ideas he didn't want to discuss in public, but I think that's a locality we need to continue to look at. Some political, both formal and informal political gossip that I heard from delegates down there and some other folks that have an in. They are, and I'm going to put this as politely as possible, there is some spirited discussion within the new majority caucus over what the priorities will be for this year's General Assembly. There's an extremely progressive left-wing portion and a more moderate portion that is led by our governor-elect. One of the consequences of that is they don't think that we will lose the right-to-work law this year. The other thing is that it looks like and I may be way off base on this, but it looks like there's going to be a lot of contention within the General Assembly's Majority Caucus over how far and how fast they want to push the state to the left. Hopefully, our moderate governor-elect will step in and use some common sense approaches to governing the state. But we have 13 new Democrat delegates. They were financed under Speaker Don Scott, who raised an enormous amount of money, 3-1, 4-1, in all these competitive districts in this last election. And combined with some other factors, including the government shutdown, they were successful in flipping these 13 seats. So there's, despite the fact that there was a blue wave in Virginia, there's probably going to be a lot of political acrimony coming out of the General Assembly in the first session. I'm just hoping that people keep in mind that, you know, they're there to serve us, the citizens, and not political parties. And, you know, that's one of the things that I'm able to proudly tell my colleagues at this conference is that Madison County worries about its citizens first, not its political affiliations. And that's my report. I will say this. We need to get more involved with VACO. And I've applied to be a member of several of the committees. I don't know how that really works. One of the good things is that I did introduce myself to the new VACO president, Victor Angry, that's a name to have, to be a supervisor. But he's one of the most pleasant people you ever wanted to talk to. He's from Prince William, and I had a chance to talk to him about a little bit about data centers and some other things, and we are going to catch up in the future. And he's offered to be a resource for us, but I think it keeps us in front of him and helps us to get possibly more opportunities to serve on some of these committees. They're very important committees. I mean, the Economic and Land Use Committee, I went to that, which incidentally reminds me of one other thing. There was a presentation at that and another workshop I went to by Bill Murray, who's a senior vice president of Dominion Power. And we happened to, purely by coincidence, he was at my table. He and his wife were at our banquet table Sunday night. So I asked him, I said, "Are you flying planes over Madison County to build a power line?" And he said, "Absolutely not. That's not us." Now, he didn't say whether it's somebody else, but he said it's absolutely not us. And he said, furthermore, we don't need to fly planes. We already know where we're going to put stuff. The other thing I pressed him on was the issue that's just recently come to our attention on the proposals by Dominion to change the net metering rates for customers. So if you've got solar and you produce more than you use, you get credit against your bill when you're using more than your solar's producing, like Judd's system. Dominion has proposed cutting that reimbursement rate by 50%. And I asked him, I said, "No, why would you want to do that to customers?" And he said, "Well, first of all, let me qualify that. That's going before the SCC. We don't expect to get that, or at least we might get a little bit of it." Their rationale, and they do have some validity because I did some work in power with Caterpillar years ago. The reason that they want to cut those rates is because roughly 44% of the cost of the electric system is in the transmission infrastructure, the building and the operation of the transmission infrastructure. They're trying to capture some of that cost back through this rate change. So I thought it was good to talk to this guy and get a little clarification directly from the horse's mouth. Of course, who knows what he's a PR person. He might have been telling me all kinds of stories. But it seems like a really, upfront guy. And another good contact, I can call him if we have any more problems. This networking part of the VACO is obviously the most important. So anyway, I'll talk more later, but that's, for now, it's enough. Everybody wants to go home, including me.
That's pretty good, Jim. Questions on gyms? What about on RR?
Well, the Triple RC, Patrick Mauney has agreed to come up and discuss on the 25th if we wanted to.
I think it'd be good.
Yeah, I mean, we can get him up here to discuss the hot topics and go from there if you'd like.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Anybody?
No.
Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
All right. Kind of killed two birds with one stone there. Dominion Energy Mapping Inquiry. Gordon?
Yes, sir.
Looks
So,
like they kind of responded.
at the board's direction, Mr. Weekly sent 2 letters. He sent one out to PJM and one out to Dominion. We received one back from Dominion. As a result of that letter, I actually called and spoke with Felix, who's the PR person down there. He told us what we already knew. He told us Randigo flew it, and it's definitely not them. I asked the question, who is it? We don't know. I asked him how often does this occur. He kind of said it happens frequently. What is frequently? That's a relative term as well. The biggest thing I asked was this. That's since 9/11, some of the biggest public safety targets has been considered infrastructure for power, communication, so on and so forth. Why does nobody know who flew that and why? That's my biggest question. And I compared it to our radio system here in the county. We're Madison County, but if somebody flies over our towers, I'm gonna be asking a lot of questions. Why? It's a lot of power in knowing that. The answer was we don't know. He did say that their public safety team took it very seriously and did due diligence on this, but very few answers came out of that phone call.
Do we have questions or comments on this?
Not to belabor the power system, but one of the other things I found out, and I didn't know this either, deregulated power infrastructure versus regulated, and we have regulated in Virginia. Where do you think the deregulated states are in the East Coast, blue or red? Trick question. They're all blue states. All the red states retain their regulation. And Dominion likes the regulation by the state because things stay more orderly and predictable. A lot of utilities in the Northeast where there's deregulation have sold off all of their power plants and are now at the mercy of providers that are not obligated by law to provide power. Dominion, by regulatory requirement, they have to provide power by law. And I thought that was fascinating. He says it's counterintuitive. You would have thought it would be just a flip. So Dominion is a large company, biggest donor to General Assembly campaign funds, $5 billion profit. They think the regulation works better, which in light of those statements and the situation, I have to agree.
Anything else on the flights? All right, back to public comment. Back to public comment. Mr. Alexander?
James Alexander, Radiant. I had thought this would be item number 8 on the agenda. I'm sorry, but you received a notice from DEQ with regard to the renewal of the sewage facility permit for Mountain View Nursing Home, within which you have 30 days to respond. Under the statute, you have the obligation to check the location and the operation of this, whether it's consistent with the county ordinances. We have submitted evidence to show that it is neither the proper location nor consistent with a good operation. As we've always done, we give you the issue, we will give you the tools and the information with which to make the decision, because you can't make that tonight. It has to be done before the end of the month, before the end of the comment period. But I can give you a preview of what I'm talking about. This is an historical artifact that the sewage facility at Mountain View was always a sludge pit, just throwing material downhill. In 2006, they got a consent decree. They forced them to do a facility. Tim Clemens, who is the Rapidan Service Authority manager, also is the chair of the trustees of Mountain View, and he is also the licensed operator of this sewage facility. This sewage facility is poorly run and does not meet any of the requirements. First is, DEQ is involved because the theory is this is being dumped into a stream. That is, that there's a surface water, a stream in which it goes. You folks know that elevation better than I do. They're 640 feet. My property is 200 feet below that. There is no stream that magically appears at the outfall of that sewage facility. When you look at the records that DEQ has, and I'm going to supply them for you, the measurement is 0.0 flow,
Months later, 0.0 flow, 0. There is no stream. And yet this fiction has gone on for years that they're dumping it into a stream. Now, they pump 15,000 gallons a day through this place. Okay, so that's the location. The location should not be there. This should be a different type of system, self-contained, as many other places are. But there's no way this location is proper. Secondly, the operation of this has only been inspected once in 9 years, once. And the recent application they've done included the inspection that was done in 2019. And that was a surprise inspection. Let me give you a preview. We're talking solids being flushed down the hill. Now, when I say down the hill, it's 200 feet elevation onto the neighbors, right? Myself included. There's no stream. They're just throwing 15,000 gallons and putting the sludge on top of us. So it's separately actionable as a private nuisance, public nuisance, trespass, all of that. But the idea that they're allowed to pollute that way is reprehensible, not consistent with the county. Secondly, when they made that surprise inspection, the E. coli measurement was 1,900% beyond what's permitted. 1,900%, right? So that's the surprise inspection. Gets even better. While the inspector is there, and this is all in the records, I'm not making things up. The inspector asked them to take a sample. The person doing it, these are all young people. They're all volunteers. Mountain View is staffed by 35 volunteers. There's no paid staff like that. So this person takes a sample, starts to run it, sees that it's not going to meet the criteria. What does he do? Dumps it in front of the inspector. And the inspector says, "What are you doing?" "I was told to do that." That's the operation of this facility. It's horrible, okay? So I will provide you with all of this information so that you can evaluate the location and operation so that you can do your duty to say whether this is consistent with county ordinances, like 14-20, which promotes the preservation of water, land, and all that. Here's the bottom line. The way the legislative process works, you folks are the pinch point, not DEQ. DEQ only comes in later. You are the pinch point. If you step up, evaluate this and say, this is wrong, we address it here, we negotiate, we talk to them. They can do a system like everybody else does. I mean, Pete Elliott has that system at the auction house, handles 300 people. I mean, Mountain View only has 40 beds and 35 workers. They can have an on-site system very easily. Plenty of money. Their people paid $7,500 a month for each of those residents. It's not a question of money. It's a question of attitude and whether it can be solved. Now, if it gets downstream to DEQ, DEQ has a statutory threshold of, well, we're not going to have a public hearing unless there's 25 people that step up. Typically, you get 3 or 4 people. We've been at this 5 or 6 days. We already have 44 signatures on a petition for a public hearing. And we got a lot more time to get more. So the idea is we want to collaborate with you, give you the information, the details, the knowledge, to try to come to a decision prior to the end of your comment period so that you can speak to it and then we can address it jointly with Mountain View to solve it. I have nothing against Mountain View providing services to the residents. I'm all for that. I've been through hospice. I'm all for that. That's not the question. But the question is, you bring people in the front door saying we have a clean, friendly environment, and then out the back door you're throwing shit on your neighbors. That's wrong. Okay, that kind of hypocrisy really shouldn't exist anymore. So that's my point. So in the next week, I'll work with your staff, whoever you prefer, provide all the information we have, give you the details so that you have the tools to make a decision and be able to do this before the end of the month. Now, in the past, this has come up, and it's sort of just gone through and never, ever been questioned. It's one of those things that has been a problem. People have complained, but they never had an ability to know how to do it or what to do. It's like you ask God and say, you know, we need help, you know, go send someone. And he says, I sent you. So here we are, okay? But it's time. It's time to fix this. Doesn't need to exist. Clean it up, and the whole neighborhood's going to be a lot better, because this not only affects all these people 1.4 miles going downstream, this goes into the Great Run, and all the reports you have is, it's terrible. I mean, the pollution standards are terrible down into the further Rappahannock watershed and Chesapeake. So it's a broader community. It isn't just the direct neighbors. Okay? I appreciate it, though. Thank you.
All right, Jim, I got one question for you. You referenced it's all in the records.
Yes.
What records would that be, and who has those records?
I have portions of them.
Are you going to
As
send
Mr.
them?
Jackson knows, I've done a FOIA request for 30 different items. I have 3 of them, but the records they've given me so far are like 2019. That's how the last inspection they had prior to that was 2016, which they failed. Then 2019 was a surprise inspection, they failed. And there's been no inspection since then. So nobody's paying attention to this. It's up to us to do this. I'll make one last comment on this overflight thing. Clearly, I mean, he's correct. I mean, somebody is paying attention here in a very big way. And I would suggest that further inquiry be made to Randigo, because you now have the contact person to make a direct approach. And I'm suggesting that that happen, because somebody's paying attention here to the level of every 2 inches for a 3-dimensional image. It's somebody big, somebody with a lot of money, and the Minion says, not me, okay. But they're coming, whoever it is. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Why don't we let Jim email Jonathan and Brian all the information, we can determine whether or not we want to add it to our agenda. And we'll disseminate all that information out to everybody and make comments back to Jonathan, and then we can kind of go from there for the second meeting in November on the 25th. I would also assume that Randigo will be getting a letter, same essence of what we asked for with Dominion, is that right? There you go. That work? We good, or do we need to vote? I'm going back to public comment before I do anything.
I'm not sure that we need to vote. We're just thinking what their response might be.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. Is what it sounds like. All right. Next, yes, sir.
Hi, this gentleman behind me graciously is allowing me to go before him because mine ties in with Mr. Alexander's. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but I just want to make a couple comments. I agree 100%.
And your name, sir?
I'm sorry, Evans Okerson. My
Thank
wife
you.
and I have a farm on Lost Mountain Road. This situation is absolutely horrible. In 2020, I applied for a grant to have livestock kept out of the stream or the waterway, and over $50,000 was spent to keep our little section free from animal waste. And Mountain View gets to dump human waste. And I haven't been there to see how it's personally managed, but I'm going to do a water test within the next week to see what actually is still showing up there. But several months ago, when we got those real bad rains, I had a 24-inch culvert wash downstream that hadn't been in there that long. And what happened to all the stuff up above me? Because we adjoin the next property with Mountain View. And all that information, all that stuff that was in their holding place, I'm sure is in the Chesapeake or in the ocean by now. So this is something that's very serious, and I urge you all to please look at it and take some sort of action. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, please.
Good evening, board chair, members of the supervisor staff and representatives. My name is Stephen A. Jones Sr. From Culpeper County, NAACP, branch 7058. I just, please allow me just to read this letter of statement from our president. and his name is Caleb J. Hackley. Okay, this statement is from the NAACP Culpeper branch regarding the Madison County School Board member Charlie Sheeds, Culpeper, Virginia, 11/11/25. It has come to our attention that a sitting member of the Madison County School Board, Charlie Sheeds, has engaged in hateful and discriminatory rhetoric on social media. The type of rhetoric that we've repeatedly seen fuel hostility, vandalism, and violence against our brothers and sisters in the African American and Muslim Spanish communities. As someone entrusted with shaping policy, guiding curriculum, and advocating for the youth of Madison County, this type of language and behavior is completely unacceptable and stands in direct contradiction to the priorities outlined by Madison County Public Schools. Priority 2, to promote the well-being, dignity, and value of everyone, and to guarantee a culture conducive to learning for every single child. Madison County Public Schools will strive to ensure every student has access to the necessary resources and learning environment that they need at the right moment in their education. Priority 6, promote partnership between students, staff, families, and community through communication, respect, trust, and transparency, while leveraging this partnership to promote strong character education and American citizenship. Mr. Sheets' actions are incompatible with these guiding principles and call into question his ability to represent the best interests of all students and families in Madison County. Accordingly, we are calling the Board of Supervisors to immediately censure Charlie Sheeds for the school board to strongly consider additional appropriate action warranted under the school board's code of conduct. The students and families of Madison County deserve leadership that reflects the values of respect, inclusive, and integrity. Words have power, and those in positions of authority must be held to the highest standards of conduct. We urge both the Board of Supervisors and the school board to take swift and transparent action to ensure that every child in Madison County feels safe, valued, and respected. We invite concerned parents and community members to join us in the call for accountability. Thank you for reading this. This statement has been forwarded to our NAACP State Conference as it stands. I'd like to leave a copy if possible.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm struggling a bit with some of the board's comments, and yours in particular, Mr. Jackson. We have a sitting school board member representing our schools, our faculty, our students, and serving them, who has openly said that all Muslims are evil and want to kill all Americans. And we have Muslim families in this community. And he has said that Black people cannot achieve anything by themselves without help. And of course, we have Black students, Black families, Black teachers. If this doesn't cross the line in your mind, I'm wondering what possibly could. If this is not actionable, what is? We talked earlier about a county administrator who was dealt with. What is the difference here? And I also want to mention, years ago, I wrote a book about First Amendment rights under the Constitution. It was for middle school students and high school students. A lot of hate speech, and Charlie could talk about more recent cases, a lot of hate speech is not covered by the First Amendment. And I don't think we can just blithely dismiss it that way. And the last thing I'll say is 4 years ago, when Mr. Sheeds and Mr. Wingate first joined the school board, and there was all this nonsense about teaching CRT in the schools and was ridiculous. I was telling a story at a school board meeting where I said that when my family had first moved to Madison, which is 11 years ago now, not long after that, my son and I were in a restaurant. He was a teenager at the time, and there was a server who said a horrifically racist thing to us. And I will never forget it because on the TV in the restaurant was the funeral for the 9 people murdered, 9 black people murdered in the Charleston church by Dylan Roof, white supremacist. It was incredibly shocking to me. And I was telling this story at the school board meeting, and a woman came up to me afterward, and she was indignant. And she said to me, why didn't I tell my son, because I said how it impacted us, and she said, why didn't you tell your son that it's not like that in Madison County? That's just an exception. And I really thought a lot about it. I've thought about it a lot over the years. Because I guess just some people see and hear racism and think, well, that's not us. That's not reflective of us. That's not who we are. And I see it, and I think, we have work to do. That's when I joined the NAACP. I think we have a lot of work to do in this county. And we can keep putting our heads in the sand, just dismiss it as, it's just talk. Or we can start to do something about it, which is why I suggested that interfaith event or who knows what. But I just don't think we can just let this go. So I was very disappointed to hear that. Thank you.
Other public comment? Other public comment? Anybody else? All right, back to the board. We don't have a closed session this evening. What would y'all like to do?
Well, I'd like to respond to
Please.
Ms. Taylor real quick, is that, yeah, I agree, of course, but the school board is a separate government entity. I mean, we control the purse strings, but that's about all we've got on there. We can't even support line items within, well, overall, line items within the school board. So that's the difference that I see. It's unfortunate, but.
If you would, please, I apologize.
Hello, my name is Andrew Myers. I live on Wolftown Road. I just want to say, it doesn't matter if it's free speech or not. Of course, he can say whatever he wants. We can all say whatever we want. But what's important is that we're calling each other out when somebody's saying something hateful. And especially in this circumstance where it's someone who is supposed to be a pillar of our community, who's supposed to be leading young people, especially a school board member. He's supposed to be leading young people into an environment of inclusivity and kindness and caring for our neighbors. And the rhetoric that he's been pushing is not pushing for a better future. And what I ask of you is to use your own voices and your own free speech to condemn this type of rhetoric. And, it might be hard. It might, you might have some dissenting voices in your comments, but it's important that you face them head on. It's important that you make your feelings clear and that you condemn hateful rhetoric. It doesn't have to be official. You don't have to fire him. If you can't, I would say you should, but I understand that you can't. But I would say use your voices, the voice that we all have. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? All right, back to the board. What would y'all like to do? Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank y'all.